guys, it's April, and I want to talk about Son of the Shadows, because I have words, as always. So it should come as no surprise that I'm going to do this review the same way I do all of my other reviews, with the non-spoiler section up front, followed by a spoiled-filled thought dump of words after that, and I'll let you know when that transition happens. But I also want to put a precursor on this as well, because this is book 2 in a series. There are going to be spoilers for book 1. So if you haven't read Daughter of the Forest yet, I highly recommend that you go read that first before you even dive into thinking about reading this book, because there will be spoilers. So Son of the Shadows by Juliet Marillier. This is book 2 in the Seven Waters series, and the Seven Waters series has my heart because Juliet Marillier, the things that she does. And as you can tell, I really truly enjoyed this book as I enjoy the series, because it is a thing that I like doing. And yes, this was a reread. But before I go off on a tangent over all of the things in this book, I should probably give you a synopsis. This is the story of Liadin, who is the daughter of both Red and Sorsha. So this is the second generation of the children of Seven Waters. This story continues on with the struggles of saving Seven Waters as the British and the Irish are constantly battling over islands and lands and all of the other things. It shows a little bit of the family life of how Red started integrating himself into this Irish family, even though he's a Briton. But mainly it follows Liadin's journey as she finds herself woven into this story of saving Seven Waters. And part of that means that she ends up in the middle of this group of mercenaries that is led by this man called the Painted Man. Liadin was not a foreseen child of Sorsha, so she has some leeway when it comes to what destiny has planned, and so she is starting to realize that her choices can affect the future in ways that nobody really anticipated, neither human nor fae. Now the fae are very much driving her down one path, but her human nature and her heart are driving her down another path. So you get to see this war of self and Liadin, and this story is such a human journey. I had forgotten a lot of what was going to happen in this book, and as I was reading it, it was starting to come back to me, and a lot of it is very much a punch in the gut. Juliet Marillier knows how to make me cry. The way she writes characters and the way she writes stories, she knows exactly where to hit to make the most impact. Now, I don't know if some of this emotional turmoil was because of what it was happening as I was reading this story and where I was at and where my brain was at, but this is such a hard story to read. It's very human driven, and you deal with a lot of very uncomfortable things. And I like that about Juliet Marillier, but you still have a lot of the Irish folklore woven in, especially with how they play with this family and the lands of Seven Waters. I also really like the story because you get to see the dynamic nature between siblings. You got to see that a lot in Daughter of the Forest with Sorsha and her brothers, but here you get to see it with Liadin and her brother and her sister. Liadin is a twin, so she has some of that connection with her brother, but then she's also got this interesting dynamic with her sister, which plays into the storyline. A lot of this series just plays with family dynamic, and I love it so much. A lot of times I'm not really into a lot of that drama-driven contemporary kind of style, but here it is done in a way that is interwoven with the magical nature of the Irish that I'm sucked in. I'm a sucker for it, and I really, really, truly enjoyed it. While overall this isn't my favorite of the series that will always be held by Daughter of the Forest, I still truly, truly enjoyed this story, and if you haven't picked it up yet, I'm gonna highly recommend it, because this series in general, please read it so you can have a conversation with me. And that will lead me into all of my spoiled-filled thoughts, because I have a lot of feelings and they deal with some major plot things. So if you haven't read it, please don't spoil yourself, because this book is amazing, and yes, you will enjoy it. But if you decide that you want to spoil yourself, or if you've already read the book and want to start a conversation, let us continue on. Now, the biggest thing that I had to deal with in this story was a lot of the character deaths. You start off with Liadin trying to save Smith, and of course you're rooting for her to succeed in this mission, and then it just all goes pear-shaped, and it's hard to deal with because you know she hasn't really dealt with that kind of loss before, at least not in this way, and It's just painful. I mean, you don't really get to know Smith all that much, and yet somehow I was still fully attached to this character, and I was fully rooting for everything to, come up sunshines and daisies. Sadly, it didn't. But then, after I'm like breaking because of all of this, and then she finally gets home again, and she has her child, and then losing Sorsha. I love Sorsha to death. She is part of me at this point because of the number of times I have read Daughter of the Forest. So just to see her passing and how Red is dealing with all of this, it hurts. And I think that is the part that just, it tears me up so much. I'm glad she went the way she went, surrounded by family and all of that stuff. But some of these characters you just want to live forever. Let's be honest. And she's one of those ones that I did. But Leodin is so much like her mother that I am always rooting for her as well. And then as she decides to have this child on her own, knowing who the father is, and still making the decisions that she does, more power to her. I like the strength that these female characters have. The focus is a lot of times on these strong characters, and I really truly appreciate that. And just the story of the Painted Man, or Bran, or John, whatever you want to call him. The history that Juliet Marillier is adding to this story, and this very deep, rich sense you get from all of the backstories, amazes me to no end, and I am really, really excited to get to book 3. I think I remember most of it. I don't know. We're about to find out. So tell me down below your thoughts on this series so far. I would love to start a conversation with you, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.